During the investigation, with the Keefe D confession and proffer agreement in regards to the Tupac murder, do you feel in any way that Greg Kading's kind of forced Keefe D to confess to the Tupac murder?
I don't know that he forced him. That interview to begin with, we were told there, and there was 5 or 6 people in there. Me and my partner, an FBI agent, Jeff Bennett, Darren Dupree, Keefe, and Mr. Higgins, Keefe's attorney, in there. When we first came into the room, we were all told not to have any tape recorders in there, which is kind of odd if you're doing an interview, a proffer session. Our agency records every interview that has taken place. So that was the first thing that kind of rubbed us the wrong way. So we did that. We didn't bring any recording devices in. And as far as your question, did Kading force him? I think Keefe, with whatever was promised him or told him prior to us going into the room, he felt confident that he could talk candidly about any of his criminal activity with no repercussions or him getting charged with anything. And I'm not privy to what was told to Keefe D or to Mr. Higgins prior to going in that room.
Okay. Going back to the beginning of that meeting or that proffer session when you were asked, or your whole team was asked not to bring in recorders, who was requesting that? Was it Keefe D's lawyer or was it somebody else?
That was out of Kading's mouth. Greg
Gotcha.
Kading told us.
Okay. Is it ironic then that he had a recorder himself?
Yes, it is. I didn't know about the recording until he went public with his book and his series. Somebody had called and asked me, and I had no idea that was recorded.
Okay, well, he wasn't there. Michael Caouette was not in the interview of Keefe D when we interviewed him about Tupac's murder. He wasn't even in the building, much less the room. So I don't know, again, if he's created this false memory where he thinks he was there. He wasn't, and you'll see who was there when I send you the report. It was myself, Darren Dupree, Bill Holcomb, Wayne Higgins, Jeff Bennett, and I think it's just the 6 of us. And so here's the way the whole recording thing went down. And it's kind of interesting. So the FBI guy with us, a guy named Jeff Bennett, his department policy, and now remember, we're kind of running this investigation under the auspices of a federal investigation. And so with the FBI, they have a policy, and you can go look this up. You can have, your, what do you call your audience, bombers? All you guys can go out. You guys can all look this up. The FBI had a policy prohibiting them from recording interviews. And this was a long-standing policy that their agents were required to abide by. It didn't change until like 2014. And they were not allowed to record interviews. And so we were honoring that for Jeff, the FBI guy with us. Because he said he can't sit in if there's being interviewed unless he goes and gets special approval. And we weren't going to wait around for that. So the idea was not to record. And so what ended up happening, and again, Mike wasn't there, so his whole claims about this conversation that we had, I don't know where that magic is coming from, but Mike was not there. But nobody knew that interview was being recorded except for the guy that actually recorded it, which was not me. It was recorded by a guy named Bill Holcomb, who was one of the LAPD task force guys. And none of us even knew. I don't know if he had the recorder in his pocket. I don't know if he had it under, his notebook. And I didn't even become aware that was recorded until 2 days. Until 2 days later when he hands me a CD. He's gone and had that downloaded and turned into a CD. And I'm like, whoa, what's this? And he's like, yeah, that's from the interview the other day. And I'm like, shit, you recorded that? He's like, yeah. It's like, fuck, great. I told the FBI guy that we weren't going to do that. It's like, it is what it is, right? So, and thank God. And, you know, honestly, I want to take a shout out right now to Bill Holcomb, because I've never given him the credit due. Like, his decision to surreptitiously record that interview is everything. Like, I can't even tell you, like, I could never have done the book or any of these things. We wouldn't be here where we are today, honestly, I don't think, if he hadn't secretly recorded that entire interview. So shout out to Bill Holcomb. He's retired out in Lake Havasu. I doubt he'll see this, but I've never given him the credit that he deserves for having the foresight to record that interview.
That's really crazy, because a lot of people, such as the Gene Deals and stuff, have always given you the bad rap, saying that you recorded Keefe D. So it's kind of been, I guess, always assumed that it was you that recorded him. So it's interesting to hear that in fact is not true.
Yeah, it's in fact not true. It was recorded by Bill Holcomb. I probably should have made that very clear a long time ago, so that there wasn't any, kind of misunderstandings. But I'm thankful that he did record that. Mike was not there when we interviewed Keefe D on Tupac's case. He just was not there. And it's very clear. I'm me saying that. You can see it in the documentation. I sent you the report. It lays out everybody who was there. So I don't know where Mike's, either relying on people not to know any better and taking advantage of their naivete, which is not cool, or he's created these false memories and convinced himself they're true, which is a fucking delusional state to be in.
In regards to the Biggie case, do you feel like Greg should have used like a ruse instead of listening to what Suge's girlfriend said at first? Do you feel like he could have gone about that a different way, or do you feel like what he did was it got the results that you guys needed, so therefore, however you get to the end, you get to the end?
Well, other than what Keefe may have heard in the street, I don't believe Keefe was involved with the Biggie murder in any way, shape, or form. He was initially the target, obviously, because I believe at the time he had a dark SS, and some of the descriptions were very similar to what Keefe looked like at the time. But other than that, I don't believe he made a mistake with how he talked to Keefe about it.
But with the Biggie one and getting the confession out of Suge's girlfriend, do you feel like he could have gone about that a different way, or do you feel like what was done was right?
Are you talking about Teresa Swan?
Yes.
Teresa Swan was. Do you know how she even came to play in the information?
Not fully. To the best of my ability, from what I understand, a lot of people were under surveillance, including Reggie Wright, and that they, somehow got some information on Teresa Swan, who was one of Suge's mothers to one of his kids, and that they basically wrote up a false confession letter and presented that to her to get her reaction, and then that pretty much prompted the confession. Am I accurate there, or am I off on some stuff?
So Paul Fournier, myself, and Jeff Bennett decided that we should probably go after somebody that Suge was close to in the 90s, thinking that, because we were hearing the same things too, that Poochie, Wardell Faust, was responsible. So we, the three of us, Jeff Bennett, Paul Fournier, and I, started looking into what Teresa Swan was doing as far as criminal activity at the time present during the task force era. and we had discovered that she was flipping cars or something, high-end cars with fraudulent names. So we got our commercial crimes bureau involved with it and had them look into exactly what she was doing. And at the same time, we brought a district attorney on board from LA County to let her know what our end goal was, and that was in the event Teresa Swan had good information and could connect Shug to Teresa Swan and to Poochie, that we would want to give her some kind of consideration in the case. And the district attorney was on board. So when we eventually arrested her and brought her in for questioning, it was very clear that she was more than willing to talk and was, I believe, being truthful with how the murder of Biggie happened and how it was paid for through the monies of Shug. So, and then Greg came on board and started with some of the stuff, and they ended up doing a in-camera interview with her to lock in her interview. So I'm not sure I recall the letter with the false statement that you're referring to or not. I was just in with her on the initial arrest and interview process.
Teresa Swan's name came up back in '98. I mean, her name had been in the case files for forever. Like, she was not an unknown person that we stumble upon. I mean, there's prison letters between her and Shug back in 1998, and people writing to Shug and saying, Teresa Swan knows all your secrets, and that's why you don't dump her. And so there's all this interesting stuff that goes way, way, way back. And then, of course, we become even more aware of her when some of Shug's guys go down and they steal an Impala that had been given to Tupac Shakur right before he was murdered, this old, I think, 63 Impala. And then she was the one who actually took that stolen Impala and pawned it off at a pawn shop in Long Beach. So we already, we had all the receipts with her names on it, and that she'd got the checks from the pawn shop. And so she's now involved in this auto theft, incident. So, and then of course her name comes up in the Suge Knight death row bankruptcy files because a bunch of master tapes got taken out to Detroit and put in a storage unit, and she was involved in that. Her name was early in the case with a bunch of permitting issues regarding Club 662. And so, she had a long history as a person that was involved in different white-collar crime associated with Shug. And so nobody, found her. We just began to pay closer attention to her. And that's what led to our ultimate interview of her, where she confessed to her role in in Biggie's murder. So I'm not sure if what Mike's, I'm not even sure what his claims are.
Okay. I mean, is it true though that they got a confession and then you came along and did an on-camera interview to lock her into her statement? Is that part accurate or no?
Mike wasn't there when we interviewed her and she confessed. Again, I guess he's putting himself in all these situations conveniently, but he wasn't there. So, and I don't even know what he means by an in-camera interview. What does that mean? Like an on-camera interview? We have what's known as an in-camera hearing process, where you take an informant before a judge and allow him to testify on camera in front of a judge because you don't want to disclose his identity during a trial or during a proceeding. That's an in-camera hearing. But an in-camera interview, I don't know if he misspoke or what he meant by that, but we did not put Teresa Swan on camera. So there was no camera anything. So I'm not sure what he's talking about there either.
Okay. How did you guys know or have the wherewithal to write the confession letter saying it was from Poochie and use that to show Teresa Swan in hopes that that would break her as far as her knowing that, the secret's out and it's time to own up to what happened?
Honestly, John, I don't know how that idea sparked. It just seemed like during our first 2 initial meetings with her, you could tell she was really scared. And that we needed to find a way to ease that fear. And so oftentimes, as investigators, when somebody knows that somebody else has already gone before them and opened the door to talking about a crime, sometimes that, eases somebody's sense of fear when they're like, well, somebody else already confessed to it. It's not like I'm the one letting the cat out of the bag. And so we did. We just said, hey, maybe what we'll do is draft up this letter. She's not going to know if it's real or not. Hopefully she'll think it's real. And if it works, then maybe she'll divulge what she knows without us having to pull teeth, and grind through this. Maybe we can just get her to open up, and it worked. And that's what she did. She read the letter, and she's like, shit, everything Poochie said. And we already knew about Poochie, by the way, in the sense that we didn't know, but we had very strong suspicions that Poochie would have been the guy that Suge would go to pull something like that off. And we had some prison letters from a guy named Roderick Reed, where he's bringing up Poochie, saying that he was the shooter. And so all of this was kind of this collective gamble where we had information, we believed it was probably accurate. We put it in the form of a confession letter and presented it to her, and it worked.